Developing an effective business strategy is crucial for turning your expertise into a profitability venture.
I'm not the only one who have gone to the Philippines too, because what I create, there are a lot of content that I create. So of course I cannot do it all alone. I'm going to bust. So I outsource. But currently, as we talk, the only collaborator that I have that are continuously working with me are right in Nigeria. And of course, we are developing it more so that if I would call it creative studio, where we'll be able to set up even studio that cross different places in Africa, because I repeat again, this is an oil well. With all these young people connected to the grid, we should be able to leverage that for them so that they can build up industry among themselves and leverage the internet to their own advantage.
We have a challenge. The Nigerian government has got to make one. I haven't spoken to my designer since I spoke to him when you and I spoke to him. Do you know why? When did we do that? It was last week. What? You know why? He had no internet. He had no electricity.
Thank you for checking out Obehi Podcast. We encourage people to own their story and share it with the world to expand their purpose. Before we start this presentation, I have something to quickly share with you. Are you a purpose-driven entrepreneur? Do you want to cut across the noise and attract your ideal client by leveraging your own story? Then pay attention. I have a signature program that can help you own your story. A 5-step transformative journey to reshape your professional and business narrative for success in less than 90 days. And it's available at academy.aclasses.org/story. This is what we have understood. Storytelling is the most powerful instrument known to man. And this is what that could mean to you. You can either own your story and use it to advance your purpose in your business and professional life, or someone else will do. The choice is yours. Now let's get started with today's episode of the Obehi Podcast.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Obehi, for having me here this morning. I'm a life book and business strategist, independent publisher. I help persons start their businesses, leverage up and upscale and literally pivot, which is one of the great things. I love to help people pivot by even adding a book as a value added. So I try to intertwine everything I do. I'm the founder and CEO of the Black River Film Festival, which is just about to have its second staging. And we just booked a Netflix producer. Oh my God, he's so gorgeous. And so that's why I'm a Black girl, love being Black, and love what I do. Take it away.
That's lovely. That's lovely. I love everything about that presentation, that you're so proud of who you are. And that is where we should always start from. And of course, today's conversation, we are looking at how to develop effective business strategy so that you can profit from what you know. I think this is particularly important for our demographic, the African diaspora community. And of course, the people in Africa too, because we can never forget that. So I would like to ask you like this, Dr. Ava, how do you create an effective business strategy as a creative entrepreneur?
So that's a great question, by the way. Developing an effective business strategy is crucial for turning your expertise into a profitability venture. So I normally say that you turn your hustle into profit. And so whether you're an author or a consultant or a creative professional, I'm always saying to people that leveraging what you know can set you apart and drive success. So how do you do it? There's several ways to do it. I tend to have what I call 8 steps that I tend to teach my clients. And the first one is to define your unique value proposition. So your UVP, it's really important to understand what is specific expertise you have. How does this knowledge or expertise solve a problem? or meet a need for your target audience. The second thing I want to say to people is that they need to identify their target audience. And just to go a step back, is that when you define your UVP, you need to craft a clear and compelling statement that highlights the benefits of your expertise and why clients should choose you. So for example, I do book to business publishing, and in my name alone is book to business, and in it we do book to screen, so people understand instantaneously that we're a one-stop shop for books, all things books. To go back to the second point, to identify a target audience, this is so crucial because knowing your audience is key. You have to understand that. The third point is package your knowledge into marketable offerings based on doing your SWOT analysis and all those kind of things. And then develop a strong marketing plan. Set clear goals and KPIs. It's really important. So those are key performance indicators, and you have to have them. Then to be smart, right? Then to be measurable, then to be achievable, then to be relevant, and then to be time bound. And the last 2 or 3 are around leveraging strategic partnerships, which is what we're doing right now, and networking. We're leveraging, you are leveraging me, I'm leveraging you, and continuously learn and adapt. And the last point I always tell my clients is to focus on customer experience. Notice I didn't say service. Focus on customer experience, customer delight, and value delivery. And those are how you're going to actually use your creative power to start a business.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Ava. You see, like I was saying before, this is really a critical, important conversation for us, particularly here in the diaspora, and also for us, for our brothers and sisters in Africa too. You see, at the mainstay of Aclasses Media, which is our organization, is collaboration, and we are trying to leverage it from 360 degrees. One of our main real project is what we want to do is to create a system in Africa, maybe using Nigeria as a point of starting, where we can channel money into Africa. But this time we're not looking at aid or come and help me. We're looking at empowering our people in Africa to take up jobs in the West. How we are doing this is that we are becoming the conduit. We are becoming a kind of a link in between so that we can secure some of this job, but this job will be executed in Africa. What that would mean is for somebody who have been around in the business space for some time now, we know that a lot of businesses in the US actually leverage VA or a virtual assistant or outsourcing, as it were, going to places like the Philippines, going to places like India, particularly in the West, in the Eastern countries. So these people make a lot of money, and of course, this helps them to also develop themselves. Including me, myself, I have outsourced a lot of what I'm doing to the Eastern country. But while we are working on Aclasses Media, we said that we are also going to do the same, but this time we are leveraging the resources in Africa. For the fact that a lot of people in Africa are young. Our demography are so young, and they are using the tools of the age, which is internet, telephone, and all of that. And this is what we need to be able to work today as we talk in the business environment. So this is what really struck me when you were talking about collaboration or networking just now. So I would like you to say something more about that, which is leveraging where we are, which is the African in the diaspora, also to the people in Africa, so that we can work together to build bigger and make better impact. Help me on that.
I'm glad you said that, because when you talked about, I must say at first when you started talking, I got a little bit irritated in my head, but I'm glad you said they're staying in Africa, because at first I heard him saying you're encouraging people to work in the West, and I was like, huh? Is he trying to get a brain drain in Africa? Quite frankly, I was happy when you spoke about it being virtual. As you know, a lot of my team sit in Nigeria. I'm not just saying it. You actually met one of my team members last week on the phone. We had a chat. I would love you to even highlight him, because he's such an amazing young man. And I see him like a son. And I am leveraging what I have to actually help people in the diaspora. And if more of us start doing that, it's very important. Listen to me. Africa is going to be the new brick. The new brick, I call it, the new space that we're all going to have to play. And if you don't believe me, just watch. Just look at the music. Burna Boy is like iconic to Africa. And I know that there are many others apart from Burna Boy, but let's just take him for example. He's an icon. I mean, everybody loves him. He's even been to here to Jamaica. He's doing music. He's putting Africa on the map. And take Nollywood, for example, which I've been in that industry a bit. I've even acted in Nollywood. I saw that you're shocked that I've hung out with some of the biggest stars in Nigeria, and I'm actually acted in films with them. But I believe that it's such a great idea that we no longer have to migrate to the UK or the United Kingdom, as my Nigerian friends call it, or migrate to America to do it. And I'm glad that we're in a space where we can do it virtually, because as you know, I lived in England for 20 plus years. And at that time, we never had this access to technology where we could sit in our desk from wherever in the world and do what we need to do. And so I'm really glad that we're in the space where our talents, our resource of personnel in Africa can sit in their homes, can still get to be mothers, can still get to be wives. Because, believe it or not, Obehi, I don't know if you've seen Barrel Children, but there was a time when the African diaspora had to leave their children and families behind. It destroyed marriages, it damaged children psychologically, and it damaged people and their soul. And so now I'm so glad that we can sit in our homes, still tend to our elderly parents in our homes by working overseas. I am championing that. I love it. And in my own small company, I actually get to do that. I used to employ people from the Philippines. And so one of the challenges I used to have, and I'm going to talk about it very candidly because you know me, I used to have challenges with more. I normally went for Nigeria because my ex-husband's Nigerian, and I used to have challenges with the quality of the work. Now that we have raised the standard, I have gone back to Nigeria to work with people because I understand that my Nigerian resource are listening to my needs, and that is very important. So it's a great time for African diaspora, and I'm just so glad to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Ava. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. Of course, I'm not the only one who have gone to the Philippines too, because what I create, there are a lot of content that I create. So of course, I cannot do it all alone. I'm going to bust. So I outsource. But currently, as we talk, the only collaborator that I have that are continuously working with me are right in Nigeria. And of course, we are developing it more so that if I would call it creative studio, where we'll be able to set up even studio that cross different places in Africa, because I repeat again, this is an oil well. With all these young people connected to the grid, we should be able to leverage that for them so that they can build up industry among themselves and leverage the internet to their own advantage. So I'm so happy that we are living in this time. This is really.
Can I just interject for a second? Please apologize. Whilst that is the case, we have a challenge. The Nigerian government has got to make one. I haven't spoken to my designer since I spoke to him when you and I spoke to him. Do you know why? When did we do that? It was last week. What? You know why? He had no internet. He had no electricity. So I was not able to speak to so this will cause them to lose jobs, because there were time-sensitive pieces that I needed that I know is no fault of his. He could not deliver to me because he did not have internet. No, the government of Nigeria has got to fix that. The government has to fix that, because here's the thing, they are handicapping the industry and the resources of Nigeria and people's ability to come and work with Nigerians. If we can't get electricity, we're going to move somewhere else. That's the truth.
You're so right about that. But you know what? That problem is beginning to become also opportunity for some people. There are some portable electricity in Nigeria that is already going on in many places. I'm talking of solar system. And there are different ways that people are beginning to take care of their needs so that they have access to their internet provider. Okay, I know it costs, but for electricity, some people are being able to take care of that. So that, because what is happening is that people are beginning to think for themselves, to take care of their need, because the government haven't cared about them. So I believe that as more and more people are beginning to have access to funds, to resources, to be able to do job outside, because what we really need is to be able to pull millions and billions of dollars to Africa. I repeat, not as aid or come and help me, but as work, so I work for you, you pay me. This is what we want to do. And as more people are having access to that, they will begin to develop their infrastructure. Maybe when the government realized that the people are not really looking at them, they will need the people, then they will come to the people. At that time, the people will be able to decide how the game is going to be played. But right now, we need to work on the people to help them to be able to sustain their life, to be able to live. Because the internet is a leveler now. If you can stay there on Facebook all the time, chatting, commenting, and all of that, then you have the time to be able to do something. So a lot of Nigerians are on internet. So which means for the fact that they are there, meaning that they are accessible to work, so they can do something for themselves. You need to say access they have to be able to stay on Facebook and all of that. So the time is actually ripe. The time is ripe for us to leverage the creative economy. But I wanted to say something there, because you were saying something really very incredibly beautiful there, which is your target audience. Now, there are over 5 billion people on the internet. You just cannot serve everybody. So speak more on that. How do you find your target audience?
You thank you. I love that. You need to know your audience, and that is key to creating the strategy that resonates. So to identify who will benefit most from your knowledge and skills. So you have to consider the demographics, the needs, the pain points, and how your expertise can solve their problems. So how do you do that? It's to create a persona. I always tell my client to create an avatar. And it is so easy to do that with AI these days. You can create an avatar easily. Type into AI what you need. You can chisel it down to their salary, how much money they have, because you want to know where they shop. You can identify how much money they have, what are their household incomes, where do they shop, how many holidays they take per year, their location, their interest, their challenges. AI can help you to do that. And this is when I say AI is good, because at one time we used to struggle to do the demographics of target audiencing. Now it is so simple. And listen to me, because if we know how to do that, we will not all be competing for the same thing. I'll give you a quick example. I just did the film festival. There are several film festivals on the island. However, nobody has ever thought of doing one in rural Jamaica, as in the country, like over in Ibadan, the bush somewhere, some deep state in Nigeria. So everybody come to Lagos and Lekki and Abuja, and everybody goes those places, but nobody thought of the rural. And the rural people, from my short observation of being back home, are craving for something to do and places to go. So what did I do? I capitalized on it. I've started the film festival. It was a great success, to the point where even people who are not in my demographics were coming to it. Now, I'm taking the step further, which I have never said publicly. I'm going to start creating movie nights, because we don't have a theater in the rural area. So rather than, I can't afford to build a theater right now. So I'm thinking, okay, let's do movie nights. So I'm taking the films right after the festival has finished as well. I'm thinking people want something to do. So I'll be doing pop-up movie nights in different parts of the rural area. That's how you find your target audience, is really sitting down and identify who has got the problem that you have a solution for. And then you just literally zero in on it and start doing the work. And so I really think people need to stop a little bit more and start tailoring and use AI if you get stuck, because there are tools out there now that help us to do that very effectively.
That's so true. That's so true. There are tools out there that can help us do this job more effectively. All right, Ava, tell me about the skill. Because you need to be able to do the work, because, okay, you might be able to tell somebody, hey, I can do the job. The statistics is that if you keep saying, even if that is the only thing that you are saying, if you keep on saying it, somebody is going to tell you, okay, yes, do the job for me. But do you really know the skill? Do you really have the skill that it takes to do the job? How do we upskill so that when we finally get the yes from a customer, we can do the job?
Great. So I think that it's so important that we upskill. We must never stay stagnant, and we need to elevate our expertise to better serve others. And in today's fast pace, Obehi, where staying relevant means continuous enhancing your skills to better serve your audience and your clients and your community, because it become a microwave society now. Nobody wants stagnancy. They want it fast now, quick, and in a hurry. Upskilling not only keeps you competitive, but it also empowers you to provide greater value. It helps you to solve complex problems, and it sees new opportunities. So you basically need to identify your skill gap. That's the first thing. Know where the gap is. You need to set learning goals for yourself. That's very, very important. They need again to be smart, right? So specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant and time bound. You need to choose the right learning platforms. There are so many available these days. There's Udemy, there's Coursera, there's LinkedIn Learning. There are so many places that you can go to get that skill share. So you need to understand that. You need to learn from industry leaders and mentors. This is why I'm coached by one of the best female Black coaches in the world, unapologetically. So sometimes my VIP day costs 25,000 US dollars, and people shout and scream like, "Oh my God!" But I know that this weekend gone, I had a conversation with one potential client, and that was $20,000. One client. So I know that investing in self is important, and a lot of us do not want to invest in ourselves because we just want to get the money in, but we don't want to put it out. The other thing we need to do is to learn from the leaders that I talked about, that practice and apply your new skill. There's no point in having the skill and not practicing it. So you probably know, Obehi, that I just auditioned for a lead role in a movie in Europe. I got the part, I turned it down because I didn't think that they were giving me fair share as a Black woman versus the white person. They were offering me less, and I turned it down. Now, a lot of people wouldn't do that because, come on, it's a big film and it's Europe. And some people might think I'm stupid, but I didn't. It's a principle for me. I'm big on principle. There's a supermarket here that I no longer shop at, which is where I used to shop at all the time. And because when I was doing my charity politically, trying to feed the homeless, they did not contribute. I no longer spend my money with them. And sometimes as Black people, we need to stand on principle, right? So it's important. The other thing we need to do is to stay update on industry trends. That is and they change every day these days. Embrace feedback. Embrace feedback. Feedback is essential for growth. So we need to always be able to get feedback. I just told a client of mine this morning who's launching her book next month to put out our 2 covers on LinkedIn and let the audience decide. Follow the audience because they are who you're preparing it for. Involve them in it. And invest in soft skill development. It's so important to get soft skills going. And this is so easy these days. LinkedIn audio rooms is a great way to get soft skills. I was in one yesterday about communication, and it was so great. And I'm going to say this proudly. I hope even if they hear it, they're not offended. I was in the room and it was Caucasians, and they were all talking about communication. And I literally had to put my hand up. I got kicked off the stage several times because of internet issues, but I had to go back in there because everybody was talking everything else except what is so obvious. Global compass. I had to be talking to them. I'm like, look, culture, language barrier. Different words mean different things in different cultures. And nobody really was touching that. And I was like, I'm a Black girl. And even in my Black community, different Black people speak different languages and have cultural norms. So you cannot talk about communicate. And they're like, oh yeah, again, they leave us out. So we need to go there and represent. And we need to commit to lifelong learning. Those are some of the ways that we're going to upskill and level up in order to better our expertise.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. I appreciate those key points that you made mention of there. Yes, we're talking about owning our spaces now. So a couple of weeks ago, I actually interviewed one of the pioneers of journalism in Nigeria. She has been there since the time that the NTA was just a baby. And she has written a book called Command Your Stage. Her name is Bimbo. Now, I would say to her that this is really important for us, that the time has come for us to command our stage. We need to own our story. We need to be there and say, this is what we represent. I like something that you said there, that you were offered a job, you turned it down because it did not respect your value.
An acting job. Like a big lead role in acting.
You see, that is important. Which means you have a value that you are developing. People need to understand that there is, you don't just take anything. You don't just eat anything. Just because you are hungry doesn't mean you can eat any type of food. You need to have value. You need to have a kind of boundary that is guiding
and
you.
Obehi, can I just interject?
Yeah, please.
I could do well with that money. I really could. And then I'm building a house. I could do well with it. But really, am I going to start out that? No, sometimes you have to say no to be able to command what you're valued.
That is so good. People need to realize that. But I haven't talked of that. Now you have the skill. You have the material. Talk about the packaging, because you were talking of the packaging before. I think that is where a lot of people might actually be stuck, looking at the creative or entrepreneur. They might be smart, no? They might have the material to offer that people are looking for. But if you don't package it well, so that people can see value in it, the perceived value. People will not pay for it because essentially all the information are out there for free. But if you package it for somebody, the person will pay for it. Speak more on that.
Wow. So I think how to package yourself as a creative entrepreneur, and I like to speak from that space because that's what I am. You need to stand out and thrive. So as creatives, right, your brand is more than just a business because it's an extension of who you are and your skills and your passion and your unique vision. So packaging yourself effectively to stand out is in a crowded market and attract new opportunities is really, really important. So again, I'm gonna just whiz through them. It's identifying and defining your UVP, unique value proposition. So what is it about you? What are your strengths, your skills, and what makes you unique? So getting the statement again, I spoke about developing a strong brand. Your brand is how you present yourself to the world. Remember, as a creative, you are the brand. You are the brand. So let me ask you a question now, Obehi. If somebody were to ask you, who's Dr. Ava? What would you say? Let me see how my brand comes across to you. Let's do this.
Well, the first thing that came to me is that you're a writer who not just end as a writer, but who's able to turn her book into money. And I'm getting that from the story that you share with me about the Mango Girl. How you have written this book, but this book had turned into a business. So if I were to describe you, I would describe you from what you do, which is your skill, your ability to transform the idea you have in your head into something that can be a kind of a canopy under which you are living. Therefore, your idea have built a business for you. That is how I would describe you.
Thank you. So this weekend, I spent my whole Saturday at my computer desk. It's not ideal. And I did that because I was able to be contacted by 2 government agencies, one overseas and one locally. And I was putting together proposals. And one of the proposals was for $2.something million to go and train in the school, in the organization to help people with conflict resolution. Now, how does that come into Ava, the book writer and coach? Because I use everything in my book. I use my book to turn into a business. I'm delivering an emotional intelligence training session in 10 days, less than 10 days on the 17th, between 9 and 10 days. How does that happen? Because I package myself well. I'm a trainer, but I use my book to do all of these things. And I tell people my book is my hope. My book is me. People call me the Mango Girl. So your brand needs to be strong. It needs to include your visual identity. People know me. I'm strong, I'm passionate. Your tone and communication, whatever Dr. Ava says, she's just to the point. People knows that. The values you present. A strong brand helps people understand who you are and what you stand for. People know I stand for no nonsense. So it makes it easier for them to build trust and connect with you. The clients who come to me, they understand I'm a no-nonsense person. So create a cohesive visual identity. So your logo, your color scheme. When I work with my clients, oh, by the way, I'm a business coach as well. Don't forget that. I started off doing business coaching. I ended up in books by default. Books are my staple. I still do business coaching. I still train. I still speak. So when I'm working with my clients, even when I'm doing books, I sit down with my clients and I say, choose a color palette. Choose a color palette. That's why when people are on LinkedIn and places competing with me, I laugh in my head, or to compete with themselves actually, because it's 99% imitation and the 1% that makes a difference. So color scheme, color palette, professional photos, define your brand voice and messaging. Are you a professional? Are you playful? Are you inspirational? And then I always talk about this. Oh my God, consistency is king. That's my phrase. Consistency is king. The other thing you must do is showcase your expertise through your content. So if you go on my LinkedIn right now, you'll see 98% content around writing. Isn't that true, Obehi?
Absolutely. Confirm.
I weave it in different ways. I tell personal stories. I talk about my childhood. I talk about my clients, but it's all around storytelling. It's all around content, around storytelling and book writing and publishing. I don't have to shout at you with it. I do it very skillfully. I'm told, somebody called me yesterday from the US and she said, Dr. Ava, I want to learn how to put my content out like you do. because you do it so skillfully. So make sure your content marketing is an effective way to showcase your expertise, build credibility, and attract a following. It's very important. How can you do that? Start a blog. I have a podcast, by the way, guys, on Spotify called Tell Your Story. I also have it on YouTube under the Sister Hold My Hand brand. I'm just saying. So you can do YouTube, you can do Spotify, you can share behind the scenes, you can do so much. I'm about to share a picture of an ice cream. A friend of mine and I went out the other day and we stopped at this ice cream place and we both took ice cream. And I said to him, I'm going to get some content here. I can make content out of everything. So use social media platform, build a professional portfolio. Your portfolio is your creative resume. What have you done? Your best work. Highlight your skills and tell the story of your creative journey. A well-crafted portfolio, guys, is going to be something that is going to stand out for you. So it's important. Network, God of grace, network and collaborate. I'm sitting here thinking of buying a ticket to London to go to one of my clients' book launch. For several reasons. One, I want to support her because that journey has been interesting. Two, I want to go and network with other people. Three, I want to find new clients. And four, I want to go and renew my driver's license. So network and collaborate. Leverage social proof and testimonials. I don't know if you saw them, but if you go on my LinkedIn page, I just screenshotted. So God, I'm asking you guys, do not copy and paste a testimonial. That anybody can do that. I don't know if it's true. Screenshot and share what you think is appropriate. If it is going to share private details, block them out. So I screenshotted something my client said the other day, and my graphic designer in Nigeria, I love to say that very proudly, my lovely, lovely Nigerian graphic designer, he actually took it. And when he took it, he was able to make me a beautiful picture of what the client said. And so I'm trying to pull up just one of them to share with you because it's important. And on the graphics, I'm pulling it up now. I screenshotted just from our chats what the client shared, and he was able to literally just take it and share. And the client said, this is such a beautiful, I wrote to him, the client said, thank you for your kind words. Be assured that I've already started working on the next book. With the experience I've had with Dr. Ava Eagle Brown, I look forward to working with you soon again. The client's face is there. It was a WhatsApp chat. I screenshotted it and I shared it. Make it beautiful, use Canva, but it's social proof. You can build confidence and trust from that. Do you know from that? That's how I got the client that I had talked over the weekend, because they saw social proof. And one of the things before you can even try to get social proof is to make sure that you deliver quality to your clients. Earlier, I spoke about customer delight and customer value. Those things are what, if you do those right, you don't have to go and beg for testimonials. The other thing is to master the art of self-promotion. I don't care what anybody want to say about me. I am a self-promotion diva.
You know, it has passed those days or those years or those times where they tell you, hey, don't keep promoting yourself. Let others promote you. But what we have realized about that is that others will forget you. You see, you don't want to allow that to happen. Your mouth is there. Speak. Let the world know who you are. Because if you don't use your mouth to confess what you are carrying, people will just ignore you. And you don't want that to happen. So if you are somebody of value, say it. Of course, say it with dignity, with intelligence, with strategy. I think strategy is part of what we are talking about here today. You know, I'm sort of curious, Ava. Now, how did you get started? Because now, when you speak, people can see that you actually commanding what you're saying. Like what my journalist guest was saying, that you need to command your stage. You are really an epitome of that. You are commanding your stage. Was it like this from the beginning, or did you have to learn something along the way? Share something with us.
I'm going to answer you, but 13 minutes ago on LinkedIn, somebody posted this. This is proof. And I love when these things happen in the real. I've been enjoying reading all your updates, Ava, about the Black River Film Festival. It's such an incredible achievement. I love how you created such a wonderful, safe, and nourishing space around film and the local community. There you have it. Social proof. Social proof. It's on my LinkedIn page right now. 30 minutes ago, somebody wrote that. How did I get started? I was living in London. And I was always writing my book from Jamaica. I was writing my diary about my childhood. I wasn't even writing a book. I was kind of a loner growing up. I was the eldest from my mom, and I was the one that had a different dad from all of my other siblings. And so I was uniquely different. And sometimes I felt like an outcast. I felt unimportant. I had low self-confidence. I'm going to tag you in that post actually, as posted recently, about how I had very low self-confidence, low self-esteem growing up. And in that space, I had all of these experiences and these feelings and thoughts. And I started just writing pieces of things on notes, like this paper became my best friend, because some of the things I was thinking, how dare I want to express them in my kind of childhood and how I grew up. I could not do that. So I literally was expressing them to the diary. And it was in that space that I ended up with this book. And then my father abused me, and so many things happened along my journey. I didn't go to school a lot. I finished high school, failed math, failed English, struggled real. My brother, the struggle was real low. We don't talk around. The struggle was really, really. I was sleeping in a bed that had the mattress was so urine infested. I would have the spring sticking in my ribs. So I grew up really poor. Life was hard and challenging. And so I kept carrying this diary everywhere I went. And when I went to London, I had all these pieces of paper now transferred into a book. And I remember sitting in a park in Streatham Vale, and a friend of mine said, "Girl, this story too much now. You need to share, I beg. There are other people out there who've got this similar story." So I got up and started believing. There is a power of belief. When people start speaking into your life, you sometimes realize that there is power in belief. And so I started listening to her, and I started believing. And then I went to Norway for work. I was working in shipping. I was working with the IMO and IHS Live, which is an American company that works in shipping. And I went to Hamburg, Sud, and then I left Hamburg. I went to Hamburg for a work trip, and then I went to Norway. I was by this time writing my master's, and I was just tired. And I remember being asked to write about myself, and I was like, you know what? I had two choices: write about myself, I do some hard homework. I was too tired. I was having a bad relationship. I just had a baby. Life was hectic. I was trying to hold on to my job because that's all I had. And so I wrote about myself. I was in a job where I had this horrible Indian boss who was not even as qualified as me, and I hated him. I don't hate him now. I hated him then. Hate is not a word. I hate nobody these days. And I remember sitting at my desk, and I just kept dreaming about how I want to be out of this stupid job and own my own destiny. And I remember one day I was overlooked. I just came out of a meeting and I was overlooked for a job. And my university had called me when they got the assignment prior and said, "Am I sure what I wrote is true?" No, check this out. I had failed my finance exam for my master's degree. And if I failed another one, I was going to get a diploma and not an MBA. And I'm like, I didn't pay how much money in England to not get my MBA. So I literally was nervous. So they invited me in to come and talk to them. Obehi, I was nervous. I thought my world was crumbling. My marriage was failing. My life was hard. I was struggling. Sometimes couldn't buy food. It was a mess. And I walked into Coventry in England, and I sat down in front of John. I never forget, his name was John, and another person, can't remember that person's name. And I remember John because John was somebody that was very supportive on my course. And they said to me, "Dr. Ava," I wasn't doctor then, "Ava, did you write this?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Are you sure it is true?" And I said, "Yes." And my chest was tight. I was like, "Oh my God, this is the end of my 23,000 pounds, blah, 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 blah." And then they said to me, "We are so impressed by this. Oh my God, what level of resiliency." And Obi, just bear with me, because this is very important for somebody who's listening. I know it's long, but you need to listen to it for a second. And I literally said, my chest, they saw my chest release, and they were like, "Oh my God, you were uptight." I said, "Yes, I thought I'd failed." Long story short, before I knew it, I went back to work. I kept quiet. And their company, they had a PR agency that did not write about individuals. Their PR agency wrote about companies and organizations. And I walked out of this meeting and was rejected for the job. The Indian boy was promoted and I was not. And I was so sick in my stomach. And I remember going to my desk, and I don't know why, the Holy Spirit said to me, "Turn on your laptop and look into your email." And I opened my email. Oh my God, I have butterflies thinking about it. And there was an email from my university that said, "The Financial Times Let me just pause at that. I beg you. The Financial Times, which is like is the equivalent of the New York Times, wants to interview you. I said, what did you say? I jumped up in the hall. I didn't care now. I jumped up. I was just overlooked for a promotion. Remember, I jumped up. I said, thank you, Jesus. I started doing the Brazilian wave. And of course, I was reprimanded. I didn't care. And so it started like that. The Financial Times featured me. And that was a big deal. It's one of the biggest features I've ever had. The Financial Times featured me. And from that, I started getting interviews. And then one school invited me that I didn't even know about to come and do their valedictorian speech. Listen to this, man. That was where my world started. It was the beginning to the end. I jumped up and grabbed the pieces of paper I had written my story on and listened to the friends. Sometimes you need to listen to your friends. They can see what you cannot see. And I started, I typed up that book so fast and put it out soon after the article. That's how I started.
You see, you have never shared this part of the story. Anyway, this is why we are here. We are about storytelling. It is really deep. I say to people that storytelling is not one of the best things that we have known. It's literally the best thing that exists. If you can tell your story, you literally can penetrate any wall. And I think that is what you are doing, Ava. Thank you so much for sharing that. You are inspiring people. Thank you so much for that. Now,
you're welcome.
As we are concluding this conversation, and because of the time constraint, what would be some of the best strategy that you would recommend that people can use to profit from what they have inside of them, the knowledge they have inside? What are some of the strategies to profit from it? What do you recommend?
I think that some of the ways to profit from your knowledge is just to be authentic. I don't understand that people don't understand this. Just be authentic. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane and do what you're good at. It's very important that you stay in your lane. If you're not good at lifting weights, don't go and try to start lifting weight because you see Obehi doing weights. Because if you're better at speaking and training and being on stage, you're gonna get more from that, and your false and fakery will come through. It's really important. Be credible and trustworthy. I don't think we even understand how this is. Be credible and trustworthy, and serve from a place of honesty. Serve from a place of care. You cannot be serving and serve from the space of money. That's scarcity and lack. Serve from a place of, actually, I can give back some of my time to people. I mentored 2 young girls, one in Zambia. I do. And I actually adopted a child from Zambia and sent her to school. I do those things because I understand the cycle of reciprocation. I understand the power of Ubuntu, which is an African phrase. That's my company in Jamaica is called Ubuntu. I have a registered company called Ubuntu. It says, I am because we are. We have to understand those principles very well. And when you serve from authenticity, stay in your lane. You serve from a place of love and humanitarianism. You serve from a place of honesty and trust and credibility, and you understand that money is just a tool, like a computer or a phone. Let me tell you something. All you need to do is to brand enhancement, network with each other, try to monetize where you can, and partner and sponsor and develop yourself and give back. The rest will take care of itself. You don't have to worry. I beg. I promise you.
I love your presence. You are so interested in a positive sense. Thank you so much for being who you are. But that is what we really need to be. We don't need to be another person or just wearing the mask that is designed for other people. Ourself is already good enough the way we are, because we come in a full package. We don't lack anything in terms of the component of what we are. All we just need to do is to shine. But first of all, understand who we are, which is the self-acknowledgement that we are really here. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. So how would you conclude it very briefly?
Absolutely. I would love to say to everybody that, listen to me, man. Just stand. I love to ask people to do things. Be actionable. Sit down, re-listen to this 3-4 times. I'm doing a presentation on emotional intelligence, and I'm listening to some content 3 or 4 times. Sit down and listen to things 3 or 4 times, right? Listen to things 3 or 4 times. The reason for that is you need to listen to it in order to be able to absorb it. And when you do listen, do me a favor. Do me a big favor. Take action. What will you do today after you've listened, right? To change your life? What actions can you take this month to change your life? What actions can you take this year to change your life? Because here's the harsh reality. There is no point in listening if you have no intention to do something about it. There is no point in listening if you have no plan to do anything about it. So if you listen and you do something about it, great. But if you listen and you don't plan to do anything about it, don't bother now. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. So be actionable. How to find me? You can find me at blackriverfilmfestival.com. I'm Dr. Ava Eagle Brown on LinkedIn, and I'm book to business. So if you have a book in your gut and anything, please, Obehi, I'd love to give away some free book conversation. Anybody want to come and talk to me about how to write their books? Ask me questions. I have an open evening on the 22nd and 21st of September. There's no cost involved. It's literally come to talk to me about how I can help to support you or the questions you have around your book. I'd be delighted to talk to you. And that's how you can find me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eva. I appreciate you. I so much
You're
appreciate you. I like what you said there, that if the people don't want to take action, there is no need even wasting their time.
No.
Because if you don't, because action is what makes the world turns around. If you don't take action, it will just be the same. It will just be the same it was yesterday. You know, the universe is not going to be at shortage. It is up to you. If you want to move from Los Angeles to Washington, and all you do in your mind is just think about it without taking action, you will never leave Los Angeles. You will remain there. But if you move, even if it is just literally moving your leg, you live where you were to another place. In my place, it is said that if you are not in the same place that you used to be, like yesterday, you are progressing. So it means you need to continuously move forward towards your destination. Because you are moving towards your destination is moving towards you too. So,
and you know what?
Yeah.
I'll give you a joke quickly because I know you need to run. I was on the phone to my client this morning and she said, I'm going to have my book launch in England. I said, come on, let's choose a date. And she was nervous. I said, let's choose a date. Let's choose a date. And she was nervous. I said, let's choose a date. And the moment we agreed on choosing the date, I was like, okay, no problem. Now that we've chosen the date, right? Let us literally decide now that we are going to go and book me a ticket. I started looking for tickets to go. I started looking for tickets to go to London in October. It happened. And she was nervous. I said to her, sweetheart, you cannot be serious if you're not ready to take action. And that's it. So I'm so grateful for you having me here. I enjoyed our conversation. I really do hope, though, can you please, guys, comment and let us know if you get value from this? Because that's important. We want to know. So Obehi will know what to create next time. It's very important that he knows. So please let him know.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eva. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much, sister. And I really do. Of course, that is where the conversation ends today. And I thank all of you that have listened to the end of this conversation. And like Dr. Eva have said, if you get anything from here, if you learned anything, let us know in the comment section. That is important for us. Let us know if you have gotten any value here. And I'm 100% sure that you have gotten value here. Thank you so much for being here.